Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's Friday Live. It's Fiona Lukeis here, coming to you live as I do every Friday. Where are we? Friday the 17th of March. I will just give the feed a little bit of time to filter through so people know that I'm here. It's a gorgeous day here in Melbourne. I've just had a lovely walk along the beach with one of my relatable students, which was gorgeous, and really looking forward to hanging out with you guys today, answering any questions that I can, sharing what I can about what I've seen that may be helpful to you in my client work this week or with my relatable students. So if you are just joining me live, as always, say hi, let me know where you were listening in the world from, where you are in the world. Always love to know where people are. And if you have any questions at all, please feel free to post them in the chat and I will do whatever I can to answer them for you. It's been a really interesting week this week. Hey, Deezer. Hi, darling. Thanks for saying hi, honey. Really appreciate that. Deezer and I. Hi, Di in Perth. Hi, Leanne, New Zealand. Love it. Love it. Welcome, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for saying hi. Deezer and I recorded a podcast interview recently, so looking forward to sharing that with you all when it's just in post-production right now. I've got a few episodes of my podcast in post-production at the moment. Because I know it's been a little while since I have released an episode. Podcasts taken an incredible amount of time, and I kind of hit maximum capacity in about October last year and went, I just can't do it right now. I've got to have a break. So I've just picked the podcast. I guess the podcast. Hey, Lara, 2 a.m. here. No idea while I'm still awake. Yeah, 2 a.m. I think there are a lot of people that can relate to waking up at 2 a.m. in the morning. I certainly have my fair share of moments like that. So welcome, Lara. Nice to see you here. Hi, Tracy. You're in Edithvale. Okay, not far away from me at all. Okay, perfect. There you go. Gorgeous. Hello. Thank you for saying hi, everyone. I really appreciate it. I know some people can feel a bit shy commenting on these things, but it does mean the world to me. It's nice to know that people are out there listening and that they find this helpful and a good use of their time. So thank you for that. Okay, so I know... oh, you haven't slept yet. Oh, you poor thing. Oh, that's tricky, isn't it? Oh, well, maybe what I have to say will put you to sleep, Laura. Maybe this is the perfect thing. You'll find yourself drifting off. I've got a couple of questions here that I will answer, but I wanted to just check in with you guys. Is there something that you would like to, is there something that's on your mind? Is there something that you would like to ask me about, or is there a topic? Okay, if narrowing down on a question's a bit too confronting, I get it, we're in a public forum, then is there a topic that you would like me to look at today? Right, I'm used to people throwing things at me. My relatable students, I run live calls with them twice a week, and they throw stuff at me, every call, lots of tricky questions about all sorts of things. So I really don't mind whatever you want to throw my way. Hi, Jane. Jane Ingalls. Hi, nice to have you on the call. Really nice to have you. Love it. Expectations. Yeah, sure. I can have a chat about expectations. Expectations are very problematic. In fact, they are a bonus program I created for my relatable students because that is such a big problem in relationships. So, yep, I can absolutely talk about expectations. Now, before I do that, I'm going to just address a couple of questions that have shown up here, and then I'll come back to that. All right, Tracy. So I'll come back to expectations because it's a great topic, and I'm just going to address the question that's here. So this is, someone sent this in to me. Hi, Fiona. I separated from my husband 7 months ago. We were really disconnected, living like roommates, and we were both very, very stuck. We've been married for, I won't say how many years. I'm just going to keep protect this person's privacy, but let's just say for a number of decades. And I've always hoped and still do that we would reconnect. It was a very difficult decision to move out, and he was shocked and confused and hurt. He's also had depression for many years, and he read into my decision that it was over between us and started going out socially and then met someone. Now it's my turn to be shocked, and the betrayal I feel is huge. She has since ended the relationship as he wasn't ready to commit and he was torn between hurting us both. So while that's over and he's feeling more confident in saying he needs more time, on one level, he wants stability, security, and peace, but he's also experienced passion and excitement, which he'd like to experience again. We're on good terms and I'm much more aware of what he needs and how I can show up better. Okay, cool. I also realize I still love him and want to reunite. He, however, hasn't consciously done much personal growth and he's very focused on his own needs rather than mine. Understandable given the hurt I've caused. On top of our predicament, he wants to take the family home. I've been wanting to sell for years and him not wanting to has been a huge sticking point and part of the reason for me moving out. Now, I'm really concerned that if I move back, it's highly probable we'll revert to old patterns. I'd really appreciate your feedback as I don't know where to go with all of this. Okay, cool. Great question. Thanks for giving me the background there. I'm going to come back to a point that I think everybody needs to remember and realize. And I was actually chatting about this with the lady that I met up with this morning. Okay. You've got to start with, we get very focused on what we don't want to have happen, what we don't want to we don't want to experience, right? As humans, we're very focused on what we don't want. But you absolutely have to start with, especially if you are renewing a relationship, okay? And a lot of people do. And, there's a very high success rate with that. I want to say that first and foremost, right? A lot of people come to me who've been in a relationship for a very long time, decades. And they feel like that they can't, there's nothing new or fresh there, but they want to experience that. And, through the understanding that I teach, they really start to reconnect with that. Why? Because all of their thinking, their habitual patterns of thinking that they have about each other falls away. You can't experience anything fresh without that happening. Okay. And because the reason why is because you always keep hitting up against that. Okay. And when you've been around a person for a long time, people have a lot of habitual thinking. Okay. Very automatic habitual thinking. That's actually not all that accurate, believe it or not. Okay. And they operate out of assumptions. And so they're not looking at each other with fresh eyes. They're looking at each other through a tired lens. Okay. So if you want to reconnect, especially if it's a relationship that you've been in for a long time, and a lot of people come to me, as I said, who've been in relationships for a long time, it is absolutely 100% possible. And it is possible to reconnect in a way where it feels like it did when you first met. It's a real myth out there that you get to a certain point and you can't access that again. That's simply not true. But don't hear that as though you should or you have to. I just want you to know it is possible and it is available to people. And it's got nothing to do with the fact that you may have known someone for 20, 30, 40, 50 years. That's not prohibitive. Does that make sense? That's not a reason why you can't have that. That's just a myth. Okay, it's absolutely possible. And I have many of my students and clients who have that experience where it's like, Fiona, it feels like when we first met. I can't believe it. In fact, it feels better. And this is the power when your thinking falls away, okay? And it's a massive issue that gets in the way, and it's one of those things that people can't see. And so it's this unseen thing that gets in the way of everything. It really does. Hence why the first couple of modules of everything I teach in Relatable are about this. This is the starting point of everything, okay? Because when you can see that, you start to rise above those things. You start to have a different relationship with your thinking, and you start to actually be able to access that fresh eye, that fresh reality, that fresh response, that fresh everything. Okay. Now, there's a reason why I've started with that in response to this question, is because I can't see this happening here, right? That's missing. And hence why you have concerns about, we're going to move back into the home and we're going to do things the same way. We're going to fall back in the same patterns, right? So there's not that fresh thinking here yet. All right. That's why you have that worry and that concern. And I understand why, and fair enough. Okay. Hey, Roz. Hey, Roz, thanks for saying hi, darling. Nice to see you. And hey, Rose. Hi, Rose. Thanks for saying hi. Rose from California. I know exactly where you are, Rose. Mount Shasta, isn't it? Mount Shasta, beautiful part of California. So that's the first kind of part to my answer to your question. So you want to understand and this is something people do not realize, okay? You are the creator. What do you want to create here? What do you want to create? And it's not so much about how do you want the other person to be. That's not an answer to what you want to create. That's not the answer. What do you want to create with your husband? What is it? What is the feeling that you'd like to generate here? How do you want to be around him? You have to start there. Okay, that has to be the starting point, and then from there, the rest of it kind of works itself out. So, you know, before you start dealing with, oh, do we stay in the family home or not? Do we do this? Do we do that? Can you see that you get caught up in logistics? When we get caught up in logistics, we stop creating. When we get caught up in logistics, we get bogged down in the detail, we overthink, we don't have access to fresh thinking, and we start repeating. I see people do this all the time. So if you are wanting to create something new, okay, if you're in a regenerative phase of a relationship, right? And many people are, okay? Many people are. I think it's wonderful, all right? We don't have to say, oh, we've known each other this for this long and this is as good as it gets. It doesn't have to be like that, right? It really doesn't. My husband and I are about to celebrate our 20th wedding anniversary this year. And we have moments where we're like giggling children. I'm not joking. We just can't believe how much we enjoy each other's company, how much fun we have together, how we look forward to hanging out. We just love each other's company. And I'm not being gushy and mushy and over the top. That's just how we are. And it feels very fresh. I feel just as attracted to my husband as the day I first met him. And I'm enjoying the feeling of that. And I don't expect that to dissipate over time. In fact, I expect that to get better. And that has a lot to do with how I relate to me, how comfortable I am in my skin, my understanding of how we work as human beings, how I show up, how my ability to let things go, and the amount of goodwill that I am creating and generating. Okay, rather than how do we work out the detail. See, when goodwill is high, details like that become much easier to work out. When goodwill is low, people butt up against each other. Okay, and so we tend to focus on the detail without focusing on creating goodwill first. First and foremost, it is the most important thing. And this is the area that people struggle with, okay? Because they come up against the past. Well, why should I be the one to create goodwill when they don't do X? Why should I when this happens? And they decide that, well, I'm not going to do it because they're not behaving the way I want. And we get caught up in all of this habitual patterns of thinking. And then that blocks everything. Okay. And then we're justifying all ourselves, why we can't, why that's not possible, why we don't want to, why. Okay. Once you get caught up in that, it's very hard for anything to change, and it's very hard for anything to feel fresh. Okay. And believe me, I know, because that used to be me, right? I used to get caught up in all of that stuff all of the time. All of that overthinking, caught up in the past, the things, the differences between my husband and I, all of my own justification. And, it becomes so insidious, you don't even realize you're doing it. And then we bring that into our interaction. There's nothing fresh anymore. It's just repeat. Okay. And so when you realize that you can generate that and you know how to create it, and it's easier than you think, now there's something different on offer. And so I would be saying to this person, you can create a new normal. It's possible to create a new normal in a relationship. You don't have to go back to where you were. You can create a new normal, but you have to be aware of what you want to create, what's on offer, and then the understanding of what you're contributing to that. That's always where you start. So until you know that, don't worry about the house and the detail and all of those things, because you will butt heads constantly because you haven't created the other stuff first. It's like shutting the stable door after the horse is bolted, as I say. Okay, so I hope that answers that question. Okay, now if anyone's got any comments about what I'm saying, or you're not sure what I mean, or you want me to clarify something, just jump in and let me know. Okay, obviously when I'm doing these lives, I can't hear what you guys have to say, so I don't know if I'm hitting the mark, if what I'm saying is making sense. So very open to receiving any feedback from you guys. All right. Okay, so next question. Hi, Fiona. I'm having man troubles with the love of my life who keeps running with high depression. He wants me, then doesn't want me. He's persuaded by a toxic ex and his kids. This situation is tough and it's making me go mentally crazy. Is it not better to just try and let go of something like this? Okay. This is a great question. And I guess it's a question that I can't answer. And I'm very, very mindful not to put my opinion into things. Why? Because it disempowers you. And I want you to be empowered. Okay? I want you to feel empowered. Now, you can't feel empowered if you're doing something that isn't coming from your own soul. Does that make sense? If it's not coming from your own wisdom, from your own truth, if it's coming from somebody else's, that doesn't empower you. It might help you in a moment, but it doesn't empower you. I want you to feel empowered. Empowered people show up so differently in the world. Empowered people create amazing relationships. Empowered people create amazing ripples. And so I'm mindful not to put my opinion into things, because what do I know about what's best for you? Only you know what's best for you. Okay. But what you want to sit back and again, this is the power of being in a reflective frame of mind, and we don't do this enough. It's a part of my everyday life. I take time to reflect. I take time to sit with things. I take time to let things marinate in my life. Okay. I don't rush into things. I take time, because that is the pathway to wisdom. That is the pathway to fresh thinking. That is the pathway to insight. And insight is the only way that we create long-term sustainable change. Okay. Even if especially if it's deciding whether we're going to stay in a relationship or whether we're going to leave one. Okay. So, don't make a decision like that or try and work that out when you're upset and you're in a distressed frame of mind. You just can't see the forest for the trees, right? You have to wait for your thinking to calm down and see what makes sense to you then, and get quiet, really quiet, and allow yourself the time to reflect. Is this good for me? Is this a relationship that I feel uplifted by? Is this a relationship where I feel honored? Am I bringing my best self forward here? How am I showing up? How do I want to feel? What do I want to create? You've got to ask yourself these questions, because you are in charge of that stuff. All right. The minute we give that power to somebody else, what happens? All right. We overthink, we overanalyze, we're coming from fear. Our mind's going at a million miles an hour. Will I, won't I? Should I do this? Should I do that? But maybe if they do this, maybe I'll do this. And you're like a puppet on the end of an emotional string. Okay. When you sit down and you're quiet and you ask yourself these kind of questions and you start to listen to your own truth, okay, which people don't do, they're too busy minded, and they don't have a reference point for it. I get it. I used to not. I'm very clear on my truth now. I know exactly where it is, and it's a very big part of what I talk about and teach. We talk about this a lot in Relatable, a lot. Okay, then you start to feel more empowered. And then it becomes easier for you to know what the next step is for you, because this is about you. Life is always about you. Does that make sense? It's never about the other person. It's always you. And what I mean by that is, I'm not saying if someone's behaving in a way that you don't like, that's your fault. But the answer is never about them. The answer is always about you. Always. Okay? Always, always, always. And so when I talk about things like empowering, I want you to know where to look for the answer and have that clarity of mind so that you can feel empowered. Empowered people do really well at life. Empowered people do really well at relationships. Empowered people have a lot more on offer to the people around them. Okay. Now it's up to you to find that in yourself, right? That's on you. It's not up to someone else to give it to you. Does that make sense? And often we go into relationships looking for the other person to give that to us. You just won't find it there. Okay. And so this is why I talk about the fact that, I'm here to teach people how to fish, not feed them fish. So if I give you my opinion, I'm feeding you fish, right? If I teach you how to feel empowered, I'm teaching you how to fish. Okay. And we need more empowered people in the world, especially at the moment. All right. And it is entirely possible for you to feel a sense of empowerment regardless of the situation you are in. All right. You don't need to wait for the situation to change for you to access that. It's just not how it works. All right. So my answer to you, honey, is, is it worth it or not? I don't know. But give yourself the time to ask those kind of questions that I just brought up, and check in with yourself and listen. Listen. As you've heard me say many times, most people are asleep at the wheel of their own life. They're asleep at the wheel. And this is why they're miserable. This is why they're suffering. And this is why they're stuck. I understand. I lived like that for a very long time. And I'm incredibly grateful that I don't live there anymore. Greatest thing that's ever happened to me. Truly. Greatest thing that's ever happened to me. And it just gets better and better over time. Doesn't mean life doesn't throw curveballs. Okay. Doesn't mean life doesn't throw things that you never saw coming. Life's always going to do that. Okay. Life will always do that. That's just part of life, right? It's got nothing to do with whether you deserve it or not, or whether you're a good person or a bad person, or that it's got nothing to do with that. That's just the way life is. Okay. That's the very nature of life itself. It's not personal, but it's always going to throw curveballs at you. Why? Because you are here to expand. And so when a curveball comes your way, and I was actually just chatting about this with my son just before I jumped on a call, I was having a chat with him. And I said, you've got to see those curveballs that come your way, honey, as your opportunity to expand. Now, it's okay if you don't. Like, it's not a big deal, but just see them for what they are. We only expand through the tough stuff. We don't expand through the good stuff. Okay? We don't grow through the easy bits. We grow through the tough stuff, right? Makes sense, right? And we only re-examine things when life doesn't go our way. So it's inevitable that life will do that, because this is all about expansion, right? And as you guys have heard me say before, we're either repeating or evolving. Okay? It's just that simple. And again, if you are repeating, it is not wrong or bad or a failure or a lack. You just got to understand that's where you're at. You can't change anything if you don't know where you're at. Okay? And this is what I mean by people being asleep at the wheel. They're not checking in with themselves. They're not tuned in. They're completely tuned out. And then they wonder why they repeat and why they're stuck and why nothing changes, because they're waiting for something or someone else to do it for them. It just doesn't work that way. Okay? It just doesn't. When you see the truth of that, it's very, very, very empowering and very, very freeing. Hi, Graham. Hi, Sharon. Lynn, hello. If I haven't said hello to you, hello, Lynn. Nice to see you here. Hi, Sharon. Welcome, Graham. Haven't seen you for a little while. Hi, Di. Just hearing that is empowering. Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate the feedback. If it's empowering, awesome. Okay. Now you want to ask yourself, how come? This is a great question. How come that's empowering? What is empowering about that, right? Because this is really important. That's not an accident. Why is that empowering, do you think? And this is a question you all want to ask yourself, right? Why is that empowering? What is empowering about that for me? What am I tuning into? Hey, Leanne, feeling empowered. Love your work fee. Love learning how to fish. Yeah, it's awesome, isn't it? So cool. A skill that you'll never learn. I'm really well, Graham. Really, really well. Thank you. I hope you are too. I really do. So ask yourself those questions. Why do you feel empowered around that? What is it? What is it? It's good to have some language around that stuff, okay? And it's also good to create an eye for it. Does that make sense? When life gets difficult and life throws curveballs, as you know, life is a contact sport, as we've all had. I've never met one person that hasn't had the rug pulled under their feet quite unexpectedly, or they find themselves having an experience or life going a certain way, and they never envisaged themselves there. I mean, if I had a dollar for every time I've heard that, right? This is just the way life is. You've got to have that reflection time when life is throwing curveballs at you, because you want to see there's a gift there. There's always a gift in the curveball. And, I was saying that to my son, you've got to see the gift in the curveballs, because the gift is your opportunity to evolve. Now, again, if you are not evolving, that doesn't make it wrong. Okay. This isn't about good, bad, better than. I'm not interested in that conversation. It's such a limited conversation, and it is based around our ego and rules and rigidity. And that's not how we transcend something. That just keeps us stuck in right, wrong, good, bad, failure, not failure, blah, blah, blah. It's like, bleh. Okay. That's not learning how to fish. Okay. That's just going round and round in a bit of a hierarchy. Does that make sense? Nobody feels empowered there because you start comparing yourself, you start going back to the past, you start making yourself wrong, you look at what other people are doing. That just keeps you small and stuck. Okay, so if this is not what this is about, you just got to understand where you are. There's no judgment around that. I mean, I repeated for ages, right? And I just got to a point where I went, I don't want to do that anymore. It's not how I want to live my life. And I went searching for an answer, and I found it. And I've invested, many thousands of dollars in learning that and understanding it, because the benefits in my life are extraordinary, and it's worth it to me. It's like it's a no-brainer, right? I am not prepared to settle, and I did for many years. When I say settle, I mean settle for a situation or a feeling or an area where I don't feel empowered. Now, there are many times where I don't feel empowered, but if it was a situation that's going on for a long time, it's like, no, I don't want to, that's not working for me. It's time for me to choose something else. Okay. Now, a lot of people get the nudge to choose something else and they get frightened. And so they repeat. This is just human nature, right? Our human gets frightened. I get it. We all do it. Like everybody does it. Everybody, myself, everybody. And it's not wrong. Okay, again, this isn't about right or wrong or good or bad. It's just about understanding where you are and what you're choosing. Okay, the more you bring an understanding of where you are and what you're choosing, the more you can then look at, is this what I want for myself? And if it isn't, just sit with that for a bit, right? You don't have to rush into. A lot of people, they come to a realization that maybe they're in a situation around something they don't want to be in, whether it be a relationship or a job or a habit that they have. Okay, there's an uncomfortability that comes with that realization, and we're not very good with feeling uncomfortable. And so then when we don't feel comfortable, we want to rush through that feeling. We want to push through it and do something else, and that's when we repeat again, right? So this is where, I often we talk about this a lot in Relatable. My students develop this wonderful capacity to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. Okay, resting in the unknown and really resting, like genuinely resting. It's incredibly freeing, right? Which gives you the opportunity to evolve if that's what you really want to do, right? Hey, Brian, thanks for saying hello. Sharon, Fiona, had a conversation with the ex-husband yesterday, and the conversation from him more was just repeating over the past. Myself a little, but I do know that I'm changing with my thoughts, and for him, nothing has changed. Yeah, okay. I've certainly had that experience, and this is where I become even more grateful. If ever I used to catch up with my older boy's dad, and I mean, my boys are older, so we don't really have any reason to catch up. I would be very grateful that I'm not caught up in the past and bitterness and all of that stuff, that I'm free of it. I'm mentally free of it. I'm emotionally free of it. It doesn't weigh on my mind at all, because that's a price I'm just not prepared to pay anymore. It robs me of my joy. It robs me of my ability to be present to the people I care about. It stops me from showing up the way that I want to, and I'm just not prepared to pay that price anymore. And that's just, I'm so clear about it. I'm so clear that it's something that is a no-brainer for me, right? It's a no-brainer. It's like, I don't want to live in that space. And I'm the creator of the space I want to live in. Mentally and emotionally, I'm talking about, right? I'm in charge of that. You are in charge of that. It's just that people don't understand this, and they don't know what that looks like, and they don't know how to access it. This is everything that I talk about. And so when people have access to that, can you imagine? Because I was just, and I'm not going to say who, but I've got these wonderful students who do my Relatable program, as you guys know, and I've got students all over the world, and they're all meeting up with each other, and they've been saying to me for ages, Fiona, you should start a singles dating app, right? So I'd love to be in a relationship with someone who has this understanding, and I think in the background there are definitely people in my Relatable program who have connected through the program and are connecting through meeting each other this way, and knowing I want to be with someone that's present. I want to be with someone that's not dragged down by the past. I want to meet someone who's let that stuff go and is embracing where they are right now, because life is only built on moments of now. You got to see this, guys. The only thing that matters is this moment of now, and this and this and this. That's it. Nothing else matters, truly. And when you see that, the freedom in that is mind blowing. The lightness, the capacity that you then have to love somebody else, to love yourself, to come from love, to generate love. Might sound corny to some of you guys, but believe you me, if we had more people feeling like that in the world, coming from that beautiful space of empowerment, could you imagine what would happen in the world? Because it's so powerful. One person creates the most amazing ripple effects, and I get to hear that. And you guys have been following me for a while. That's what I'm all about. I'm all about ripple effects. This is why I do what I do. I remember years and years ago being fascinated by the way people interacted as a very young child. And as I got older, realizing all I want to do is is reduce the level of suffering in the world some way, somehow. And I didn't know what that would look like. And then I went through my own very difficult journey. And I realized that journey led me to where I am today. Okay. It's like, this is the vehicle that I can see that's incredibly empowering and effective. When we are empowered, when we are looking in the direction of love, when we're creating goodwill, when we're present, when we're not haunted by the past, where we can see that the past is no longer real, when we're grounded in who we are and what we bring to the table. And this is easy, guys. It's got nothing to do with women or men or whatever. Anyone can do this. Then you start to create these amazing ripple effects. And I hear this all the time. Wow, just had a conversation with my ex, it went really, really well. We're doing super well. My God, Fiona, without this understanding, we'd be at each other's throats. I've just reconnected with my sister. I hadn't spoken to her in 20 years. And now we're closer than there's ever been. It's mind blowing. I now speak to my mum, lady in Scotland, who hadn't spoken to her mum in 60 years, who lived literally 3 streets down. Rings her mother and has coffee with her a couple of times a week. No anger. I mean, I could go on and on. What do you think that does for the quality of that person? It is on you, and I say this not from a place of wanting to make you feel bad, but if you're wanting to create change, it's on you. You have the power to create generational change. Generational change. Right? If you've been brought up by parents that were angry or didn't show you love or just didn't have that capacity for whatever reason, you have the power to change that right here, right now. You can change that. It's never too late. If you want to reconnect with someone, you can do it. It's never too late. Okay? As long as that person is living and breathing and you want to create change, you just have to understand that you have the power to do that. Okay? And you have to be able to put the past down, and it is entirely possible. And so you can reconnect in long-term relationships. You can regenerate something if you want to. You don't have to. There's no shoulds here, but if you want to, it's possible. It's all on offer. It has got nothing to do with the past or the amount of time that you've known someone or what's happened. You can transcend that. This is what human beings have the capacity for. We do. We just don't know this stuff. And you don't transcend it by examining the past and coming to terms with every single thing that happened and solving every problem. That's not how you transcend something, right? It's truly not. And it's not sticking your head in the sand either, which people think that that's what I'm referring to, right? Truly, it's not. There's a much simpler, easier, more profound way to create long-term sustainable change, right? So that you get to show up in the world the way you have always wanted to, right? Believe me, every person I speak to secretly wants to show up in a certain way. They want that, but they either don't believe they can, they don't know the pathway, they're too frightened to try because they think, what if I can't do it? And I want you to know, if you've ever had those thoughts, please, please, please ignore them. You absolutely do have capacity to do that. Everybody does, without exception. If this is something that you want, you have to bring the want, right? That's not up to anybody else but you. but you can show up. If you're someone who's been stuck in cycles of anger and resentment and frustration and busy-mindedness and you want to create change, you can. Okay. If you're someone who has been caught up in cycles of shutdown and disappearing and not being able to speak and feel like you have no voice, you can change that. If you're in a situation where you feel that you're not being the greatest role model for your children, you can change that. It's entirely possible. You have everything you need. We just need to flick the switch. Okay, that's it. Really. Hey, Joanna, honey. Lovely to see you, darling. Thank you for saying that. An understanding of where you are and what you're choosing. I love living with this as my reference point, thanks to Relatable. Giovanna's in my Relatable program. I love that. Thank you, darling. Brian, I don't like the feeling of going to work this morning. It didn't feel like a good experience, so I'm on the road going camping. Good for you, Brian. I love being able to make that choice and feel fine around it. Yeah, and not have any guilt around it, not have any thinking around it. 100% truth. It's the most beautiful way to experience life. Sharon, I hope my daughter can understand the love from her mother and forget about the past and blame her parents on how we treat her. Well, the way to do that, truly, is through meeting your daughter on the other side of that, not meeting her there, right? Truly, meeting her on the other side of that upset and all of that stuff. Not ignoring it, but meeting her on the other side of it. And you can absolutely do that. You show up consistently and you're not loaded and you're present and you're grounded. Absolutely. This is what happens. Okay. It's truly, truly a beautiful, beautiful thing to see, and a great honor and privilege for when I hear people doing this out in the world and creating their own relatable ripples, as I call them, right? Okay, everybody, I have been raving on long enough here, I think, and I've got a client waiting for me at 1:30, and I need to have lunch. So I'm going to sign off today. If you want to know more about Relatable or you want to have a chat with me about it, I'm going to put a link to my online booking system. If you want to book in a quick chat with me because you've got some questions or you want to know a bit more about it or you're not sure or you're whatever, all right, feel free to book a chat and I'm not going to do some big massive sales pitch on you, but I'll happily answer any questions that you have. I've just put a chatbot on my Facebook page as well that answers some frequently asked questions about Relatable and things like that. So feel free to explore that. But I will put the link here to make a booking so that you can have a chat to me about it. All right. More than happy to do that. And yeah, I will see you next Friday. If you have a question that you want me to answer, send it to hello@fionalukeis.com.au and I'll answer it for you. All right. Lots of love, everybody. Thank you, Rose, darling. Thank you so much. Thanks, everyone. See you next Friday. Bye.